Okay, while people are doing that, can I check you can see the presentation now? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Sorry for the technical glitch. And we don't seem to have the feedback, so that's good. Okay, over to Tansy. Should we read on that one? Okay.
I am Tansy and I am a presenter today. I am the one of Time to Talk Next Steps Training Squad.
I am Archie, and I am a passenger today. I give my ideas to the board of Time to Talk Next Step, and I go to the peace support group when I can fit it in.
Thank you. And I'm Alice, and I'm a presenter today, and I'm the development lead for children and young people at NDTI. And I think Tansy's got a little activity she's going to ask you to do now. Over to you, Tansy.
Thank you. Put your name and your sheep number in the chat. On this sheep scale, how do you feel today?
So we've got quite a few numbers. Oh, a number 7 feeling maybe a bit shy, maybe a bit tired. A number 9 jumping for joy. Sue Harradine, glad to hear that. Leslie is at 4. Oh, Leslie. So there's a bucket on your head. And Tansy 5. Feeling a bit tired, are you, Tansy?
No, she just said she likes sleeping.
And you know what? Mine is going to be number 3. Because I've got this new hairdo and I've got a fringe that keeps going over my eyes. So I keep thinking it's a spider on my forehead. So this is a tool that we use at Peer Support, which is a little bit like the the group that Abby described. But in this group, it's all young people who come together, and we meet every 2 weeks. And we often use this, which is a mood board, don't we, Tansy, to invite people to say a bit about how they're feeling. And you've done one of these, haven't you, Harshi, as well?
Yes, I have done it before, yes. It's fun.
It's a nice way to start because everybody has a go then, don't they? Okay, so we're going to go on to the next slide. I don't think I'm the host, so if you wouldn't mind taking me through the slides, Sharon.
Yeah, no, thanks. Just say next slide each time and I'll move.
Okay. So I mentioned NDTI. It stands for the National Development Team for Inclusion. And I work for them. They're a not-for-profit organisation. And we do a whole range of different work on people's rights, tailoring programmes. We adapt things to include everyone. We do a lot of work on personalisation. And today we'll begin talking more about sort of strength-based, person-centred planning work, which is one of the ways in which we really successfully have been able to assist young people and their families to have their voices heard. And we're bringing a few tools, aren't we, Tansy and Harshi, that we think people on the call. I've noticed there's a lot of parents, so it'll be really useful, I hope, for you to use some of these tools. There's a link to our website on this slide, so they'll be sent to you and you can have a look if you want to know more about us. So the next slide is really just stating and reinforcing the point that Abigail made around the importance of recognising that all young people have the right to have gloriously ordinary lives. It's a term that one of my colleagues, who's also a parent, has used for many years, and really sums up the importance of us ensuring that young people with special educational needs and disabilities have the best possible support to make sure that they have successful adult life. And that can include jobs, independence, friends, and health. And that the foundation of really getting to that point and making sure that plans for young people, in particular education, health and care plans in that education context, are based on their aspirations, on their hopes. And a really good, important part I think, of that is thinking about it from the very earliest of years. So the mantra is to go back to the SEND Code of Practice, and in particular chapter 8, where preparing for adulthood from the earliest years is a really useful chapter, actually, as indeed a lot of the information in there is around inclusion and ensuring that we really do co-produce work with young people, for young people. The next slide really is a basis from which we do a lot of our work at NDTI. So we've been commissioned as an organisation to run the Preparation for Adulthood programme for several years. And this graphic is one that was developed in consultation with 400 young people and their families, going back a bit now, 2011 till 2014. And it really helped inform that chapter that went into the SEND Code of Practice and the Children and Families Act 2014. And I think it's a useful one because it reminds us about the 3 key messages of personalising the approach. They're down the left-hand side of the graphic. Developing a shared vision so everyone understands what we're doing. Really looking at improving post-16 options and support. And my organisation is also working on supported internships for young people with additional support needs. And I'm very happy to answer some questions about that later if you have any. And then this whole area of raising aspirations. So Abby mentioned, if you speak to somebody, anybody, and say, right, what do you want to do when you grow up? Not only can that be a completely impossible question to answer if you don't have an idea of what's possible, but also it can feel quite scary and can make people feel quite anxious. So what came out of that consultation was these 4 important pathways: employment, independent living, community inclusion, and health. And if we stick to these important pathways, we're really going to ensure that not just education is focused on in terms of, you know, knowing your maths, but actually your whole life is considered as you move through education. And that's a key foundation for preparing for adulthood. So if you click, I think we'll get a sort of summary there of the legal part around the responsibility of local authorities. As Abby said, there's a legal responsibility to ensure that from year 9, so that's age 14, all EHCP plan reviews include focus on preparing for adulthood. And the tool that we're going to show you later is a really useful one to use and perhaps introduce into those reviews. Planning should always be centred around the individual, and it should explore young people's aspirations and abilities and what they want to do after post-16 education or training. And many families also don't really know what's on offer. So it's really important that those things are included. And the next click, I hope, brings up just a couple of icons at the bottom. Oh, no, it's not that one. Right. Pathways to adulthood. So why the pathways are important. I imagine that many people on this call are fully aware of why they are important. But nonetheless, that vision, that shared vision is so important. So enabling us to remember that children and young people with SEND have the same aspirations, needs and rights as young people. They help us to remember what a good life is for all young people. They help us to find out about a child or young person's aspirations and what's important to them. They help put the right support in place, and they help us to support children and young people and their families to plan life outcomes. Next slide, please. So this is a slide which summarises the Time to Talk Next Steps project. And it's a little bit busy, but it's an important one to just show that we developed the project based on our knowledge of preparation for adulthood and the really key role that families played in COVID-19, where young people were suddenly at home. They may have had quite a lot of work they were doing at school or college on independence, and then suddenly were left perhaps at home with very little contact with others and their peers. So parents were in a position where suddenly a lot of the emphasis was on how to maintain independence, despite the lockdowns, I suppose, that we were going through. And it was born out of that, because we were aware of the mental health issues that rose for families. We teamed up with Contact to Family, provide a whole range of really useful information and advice for parents and carers. And those things added together led to us being successful in getting lottery funding for a 6-month programme called Time to Talk. And then the current programme that Harshi and Tansy and I are working on a lot is Time to Talk Next Steps. And we're currently working in that programme. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. So next slide, please. So yeah, the programme really is about practical support, and that's what we're going to bring to you today. It's aimed at 16 to 25-year-olds. You'll notice it says additional needs. That's very much because young people themselves did not want it to only be for disabled young people. Many young people during the pandemic and afterwards felt they had additional needs but may not have had a diagnosis. So here we're including young people who have who are neurodiverse, who felt different, may have mental health issues, or indeed who may have a diagnosed disability or health condition. But it's all about building confidence and trying to tap into that place where young people might be feeling really unsure about what on earth happens as they grow up. And indeed, what we have found is just how anxious that can make people feel. It won't be a surprise to people on the call that many young people, more young people, if you like, have become absent from education as a result, sort of since the pandemic. So what we found is this programme has been a great way to engage them in enjoyable conversation, and if they're not speaking, then we use all sorts of different ways to engage them. But it is all online, and we're able to then assist them, if you like, to make connections through this project and to talk about independence, which is a word that's often misunderstood and indeed can cause anxiety. Next slide, please. So before we move on to talking about the tool, I thought I'd just give you a quick summary. This is a lovely photo. This is how me and Harshi and Tansy met each other through this programme. And I told you that the programme is funded by the lottery, and it was all online, but actually through co-production and young people saying, after obviously we got to the other side of the pandemic, saying, we want to meet up, actually, we're enjoying this and we want to see each other. We've organised these residentials. So that photo, can you remember where it's from, Tansy? Do you remember that, when we went to Drayton Manor?
Drayton Manor.
Yes, it's probably Drayton Manor.
That's right.
Yes.
And Harsh, do you remember?
Yes, Alice. There were lots of rides at Drayton Park.
Yeah, and a bit later there's a photo of you guys on a ride. So the one-to-one sessions are usually the way that people start with support online, about 4 to 6 sessions with a supporter who helps talk about, well, use person-centered planning tools to talk about the young person themselves, and then to move on to talking about future plans. Peer support is, I've already mentioned. We do a lot of connecting people with useful contacts and networks, especially parents and carers and professionals. We've got a team called the Training Squad. Now, Tansy mentioned this team, and don't know if you want to say quickly what they do, Tansy. Would you be all right to do that without it written down, do you think?
Do that.
What does Training Squad do,
What's
Tansy?
Training Squad do? You forgot. Would you like me to? Shall I help you? So you meet with John and Barry,
Yeah.
And when you meet with them, what do you do? Who do you talk to? Professionals?
Professionals.
So
Yeah.
you as a group decided what messages you wanted to talk to professionals, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then you all worked on the training. Do you remember? And you all made the training together. And now you're all delivering it, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you meet with professionals and talk to them about what's important to you, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
who's
you're very
always
good at that,
PowerPoint?
Tansy, because it's a very, it's quite a difficult job actually running training, a bit like this tonight, where professionals are coming and you're getting the messages across that you agreed on with the rest of the group. So the next slide is around the support that we provide for parents and carers. I'm going to hand over to Sharon there.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry, parent reflections. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I mean, obviously I'm here in dual capacity this evening. I'm here with my DSA hat, but also as Tansy's mum. And as she was sort of approaching 15, 16, we started to talk to her school about preparation for adulthood. And she was in a mainstream school. And I think they didn't really know what those pathways could look like, because they were generally used to, most of the young people in their school, going on to do vocational qualifications or A-levels. And so when I was starting to talk to them about helping Tansy think about developing independence and pathways and preparation for adulthood, they didn't really know necessarily how to help her, but also either how to help me as a parent. And it was through pure chance. I was talking to a friend about this who knew Julie, I think, at NDTI, who put me in touch with the programme. And I remember the first time talking to Alice about what was important, and I really wanted to support Tansy to develop her independence and to learn skills that would help her to be able to do things without me. But if I was the person who was supporting her to do that or training her to do that, then it made no sense to me. And I reached out to Time Talk at the time because I recognised my role as Tansy's parent was changing, and that I would need some external support to help her learn how to do things with other support than me. And it was through the Time to Talk programme that work started. And as a result of some of the discussions she's had with Alice and through Training Squad, it's given me, I guess, some of the tools and the confidence as well to really push for certain things in terms of her education, health and care plan. So one of the lovely videos that we've got on the Down Syndrome Association YouTube is Tansy talking about travel training. And you do travel training now, don't you?
Yeah.
Because it's important that she learns how to travel with support, at least initially, but hopefully on her own at some point, but how to travel to places without me. And she's also benefited from the Down Syndrome Association Work Fit programme. Where do you go every Sunday?
It's my work in H&M in Basingstoke.
Yeah, so Tansy's now got a job. She works 4 hours a week at the weekends as well as college. And I think that what we've been able to negotiate for her is support from the Down Syndrome Association, support from NDTI, and also through Contact as well. I also do part-time work for Contact, and have been able to help shape some of the support that Contact are providing as part of the NDTI programme as well, in terms of delivering some webinars for parents to help them think about their changing role as parent carers of young people who are moving towards independence. There we go. Is that okay, Alice? That was completely unscripted. I hope that was okay. You're on mute.
Thank you so much. I've got a picture here of Kilner as well, who is Harshi's mum. And Kilner's been an important part of helping shape this programme as well, and advising us on, you know, different ways to develop the parent-carer support, which is the next slide, I believe, Sharon. So if you could just go on, I've realised that you're showing the set of slides that's one version back. So we might have one word that Tansy gets cross with me about because it hasn't been changed.
Sorry, it was the one
See
that
if you
was
can
in my
spot it,
email.
Tansy. Don't worry. Don't worry. So this is a good one. If you wouldn't mind just speaking to this, because you've mentioned it briefly, but just to make sure people know how to access this
course.
support.
So yeah, Contact, as I've said, have got a number of webinars and also drop-in sessions that parents can attend to meet other parents who are going through similar stages in terms of their young people developing independence and the skills to basically shape their own futures and to think about preparation for adulthood. As part of the programme, Contact also deliver a listening ear appointment, which is very similar to what the DSA also offers as well. So as parents of young people who have Down syndrome, you've got the option to use either of those. And then there's the Contact helpline, which again is very similar in terms of being able to provide advice, information and support in the same way that the Down Syndrome Association helpline does too. But if this is, in terms of time to talk next steps, a programme that you're interested in, then the web link is on the bottom here. And as it says on Alice's slide, requests can be made up to May next year. And I just think it has really benefited Tansy, and I've seen your confidence grow, haven't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's really, I think we can just see a big change. Alice Harshi and Tansy and I were talking the other day about how the girls have gone from being girls to young women whilst they've been doing this programme, and it's just an absolute delight to see them both growing all the time, and yeah, for other young people to be able to take part in that.
Thank you. And Tansy, would you be all right to read this slide?
Yes, I would. The importance of person-centered planning, section 9.24 of the Send Code of Practice 025 says that local authorities should support and encourage the involvement of children and young people and parents or carers by providing them with relevant information in accessible formats, giving them time to prepare for discussions and meetings, and making time in discussions and meetings to hear their views.
Next slide, please.
To prepare for an adult life and to become more independent, it's important for children and young people to talk about their ideas and develop their own goals. Sometimes we need support from people we trust to talk about our hopes and dreams and get these recorded. And a good place to start is talking about things we are good at and what really matters to us. We are now going to talk about different tools, and Harsey is going to share what she did to develop her plan.
Harshi, you okay to do this slide?
Yes, am I going to do this slide? Yes, am I going to do the slide? At time to talk. Next step. I add a supporter. I matter each week for a job. We met 6 times in total. I created a plan by answering important questions and using the What Matters Island tool. Jancy and I are going to show you how this works. Jancy will ask questions and I will tell you my answers. We want you to write down your own answers too on a piece of paper at home. Are you ready? Don't worry, won't take long.
Thanks, Harshi. So if everyone, you could just get a bit of paper and a pen, because even if you're just scribbling a few notes, you won't have to share them, but we'd like you to, certainly Tansy and Harshi thought it'd be good fun as well if you could have a go at this yourselves. You want to read that bit, Harshi?
Yes, so he asks us to make a plan using our own views. Parents and staff can do this too.
Tansy, can you kick off with the top bit?
Okay, Alice. First, put your name on a paper and today's date. I will give you a moment for this. Then I want you to imagine you are going to a desert island and you can only take the things and the people that really matters to you. Now answer these questions. Number 1, name one thing you want to have with you because it really matters to you. Number 2, put one thing you really like doing. Number 3, put 3 people who are the most important to you and you can trust to help you make important decisions. I will wait 1 minute for you to write down your answers.
Yeah. For these questions, I add these answers. Thank you, Jancy, for these questions. Actually, I could not think of one thing only, and so I made a list of lots of things that matter to me. My category goes to AP, mobile phone, money, purse, or bag for my phone, reading books.
Fantastic. Did you have people?
Yes, okay. Again, I made a list of lots of things that I like to do. Swimming, dancing, singing the karaoke songs. This was my favorite part during lockdown, and I also sing karaoke songs during my free time in college. Talking to lots of people like other children, teenagers, and adults. Oh, that's most important to you. Oh, That's an easy one, but you are the most important people to me. That would be my mom, my dad, and my younger sister. I usually. Next question, Jancy.
Now, please write down your answers to these two important questions.
Oh.
What are you good at? What do
I-
people like about you? I will wait a minute for you to write down your answers.
Yeah. I hope you have written your answers for these questions. I have these answers. I think I am good at everything. But my mom might disagree with me. So my list is making people laugh, talking on Zoom to people, and giving presentations. Doing cooking videos. I did a lot of this during lockdown. Yeah, what do people like about me? Alright. That I work out, that I am cheerful and cheer people up when they are sad. I am their best friend because I make my friends happy. People like my cheekiness as I say funny things. Next question, Jancy.
Now it's time to think big and really dream. If you could do whatever you want, what would it be? Make sure it's positive. Remember, it might not be something you will do right. Alice, what is yours?
Well, mine is, I've got lots of dreams, but the one I go back to quite often is I'd like to be able to make my own boat and to actually use it to travel around England. Harshi, what's yours?
Oh, I wish I could go to China because I love Chinese rice. I would like to go to a wedding in China. I also want to get a driving license and drive a green car.
A green car.
Yes.
Great. So I'm just going to mention here that in using the tool, this is something that was designed by John Ralphs, who is a colleague of ours at NDTI and is an immensely talented graphic artist as well. And he's much better at explaining how this was developed and how to use it. And there is a link to a video in which he talks about that. And he talks here about the North Star. So for some people that works, for other people it might be a bit confusing, but it's really about that big dream, because it really represents you if you can get people comfortable enough to start talking about their dreams. It says a lot about what someone loves doing or what they'd really like to do or who they want to be. So although it's sometimes difficult to get that into a conversation and can feel rather otherworldly, we would really encourage you to make sure that those conversations happen either in your family or in your setting, because they really do lay the foundations for good aspirations.
Now it's time to start planning. What do you want in the future? What needs to happen for you to do this? I will wait a minute for you to do yours.
Yes, for these questions, I understand that. What do I want in the future? Alright. In the future, I want to teach young in a nursery school because I teach children in a nursery school because I am good at listening to children. I want to help children with the reading and also to marathon sign language with children who find it difficult to talk and to understand. I want to also become more independent, like travel by bus or train on my own. This is because I will need to learn how to get to my work in a nursery school on my own. This is before I get my green card.
Do you want to go back to the other slide?
Yes, I have another answer now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what needs to happen for me to do this? All right. I need to ask my colleagues to help me find work experience in a nursery. I need to practice my marathon sign language at home and at college. Can you see I have been practicing marathon here with you during this presentation? To be more independent, I need to start by going to my local shop on my own with some money to buy something I want. I can then find out from college how I can get out to do independent travel training. This means I need to learn how to get to college on my own from home. I also need to learn how to get back home from my college. At the moment, my mom drives me to college and comes to pick me up. And thank you, Jancy, for these questions.
Thank you so much, Tansy. That was brilliant that you did those questions so clearly. And I know you did your own What Matters Island, but when we practiced, you decided you do the questions, and then Harshi, you did a brilliant job of sharing what your answers were. So thank you both so much for sharing that tool, because that's the one you wanted to share. And I suppose what we wanted to do is make sure people understood how those were used. So we chatted about all those different parts and those important questions to the island. And I wanted to just emphasize that there are lots of different person-centered planning tools, which, if you like, What Matters Island really brings several of them into one place. But there are links on this slide to What Matters Island, and they're editable, so you can go in and actually create your own with your young person, or they can create their own. There's also communication plans, which are really useful in terms of actually enabling young people and in conversations with young people to work through what it is that somebody may need to assist them to communicate. And it may not be in language. It might be through their behavior, that they need people to understand their communication and different ways of communicating. And the decision-making profile is one we've got a short video on at the end of the presentation. Planning My Future Life is a whole suite of different tools. And I think Harshi and Tansy have done a really good job of showing how positive that approach could be. And we call it a strength-based approach. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with it and already use it a lot, but we wanted to share this with you. And we also wanted to just quickly say, you might have to adapt these tools because everybody's different. So the next slide is one that a group of young people actually changed. Well, they designed it themselves, actually. So there was a group of young people who were talking about how to prepare for leaving special school that they'd been at for years. And they were really concerned about how they were going to cope. And they decided to they designed a game, actually. And as well as that, this tool that they wanted to use and they wanted their support workers to use, called coping strategies. So in many cases, being open to developing drawings and things that help anyone you're speaking to plot out not just their aspirations, but also what might need to happen to enable them to move forward, can be useful, a bit like Abby said, for anybody. So the next slide is really, I think there might be, sorry, yeah, that's a link to the tools. I just wanted, this next slide was one that I just slotted in because we've mentioned the importance of those annual reviews and the significance of the annual review from year 9, including the aspirations, but also the steps and the outcomes relating to preparation for adulthood. And I am actually a parent myself. I've also got a son with an education, health and care plan. And I certainly found it quite complicated trying to navigate an education, health and care plan. So one thing that I wanted to encourage you to do by putting this slide together was to see just how useful the What Matters Island and other tools can be to help you bring the voice of your young person into those important meetings and conversations. So an example of an aspiration might be, I want to get a job when I leave education. A bit like you, Harshi, you're really clear at the moment about your job. And you also were really good at explaining what you need to have to get to your job. And that is an outcome. And it's an important thing to make sure that people put into their plan, their education, health and care plan. So those examples around making friends, many people feel at a certain age they want to spend more time with people who aren't in their family and they want to meet more people. But how do you do that if you're not feeling very confident and you've only spent time with just a few people from your school? So an outcome might be, in the next year, I'll work on developing my confidence to communicate. And that one includes a drama club as well. And the last one relates to health. So just going back to those 4 pathways, it's important to think about the whole life of a person. And in relation to health and fitness, it may be that their aim, their outcome will be to be going to the gym. And obviously one of the things we're encouraged to do is make it specific and measurable so that by a certain time something will be achieved. So the next slide is one that we wanted to bring to you just to share where all those resources are and to make sure that you feel confident going to this website that NDTI has, and all of these tools are really useful to browse through. A bit like Abby said, it sounds like you're going to be spending the whole of the next few days looking at resources, but we hope they're useful. And just to show how one of these tools is used in action, and I hope you've pressed the right button, Sharon, because I didn't earlier on, but you're running it now. So Harshi, do you remember meeting Eleanor? We met Eleanor.
Well,
She's
yes,
an actress.
yes, I have met the people. Yes, on
Yeah.
the Zoom.
That's right. And Eleanor, just in 3 minutes in this video, shows with her supporter how the decision-making profile can be used.
In this video, Eleanor talks about making decisions. Her PA uses a person-centered tool to work through the key questions.
Harshi, can you read that bit for us?
Eleanor got married in July 2022. and research and asked to see wedding photos. She said she was happy for us to day with you.
Harshi,
Jessica.
over to you, Harshi.
Okay, these are pictures from some time to job next us. Meet us and conferences. We plan to have a conference to celebrate the residential and contact Alice.
It's
Should
coming
be
up in there. Yep.
Okay.
Hello, Ellen.
Hello.
Thank you for coming along today to talk about making decisions.
Okay, you're welcome.
Do you make your own decisions, Ellen?
I do, yeah,
Always?
pretty much.
So that means occasionally you need a bit of support?
Yes. Like I have a circle meeting. Like, for good example, when I was planning of moving out of the family home, and now I am planning to get married. So I need a circle meeting for that.
Wow, getting married.
Yeah.
Right. That's a lot of decisions to make. So when you're getting information to help you make a big decision, how do you like to get information?
I prefer someone to explain it to me. I can read, but it would be better if someone explains it to me.
Okay. So when somebody explaining things to you, how can they make sure that you understand?
So the words are clear, no jargon, and I quite like pictures to help.
Okay, that's lovely. So if you've got to make a big decision and you've got a lot of choices before you make that decision, what do you need to know about the different choices?
Right, I need to understand each choice that will mean for me.
Okay, so you need to understand what the outcome of a choice might be and what the choice would look like.
Yeah.
So what is the best time for you to make a big decision?
Best time. I would say when I'm not rushed, and the best time for me would be the late afternoon, and when I don't have too many things on my mind.
Okay, so you're not a morning person, Eleanor?
No.
Okay, so what would be a bad time for you to make a decision? Presumably early in the morning.
Yeah. Like early in the morning, and when I am rushed,
Mm-hmm.
and when I have too many things to think about.
Okay, so do you think it's a good idea for people to have a decision-making profile that explains how they like to make their decisions and how they can be involved in decisions?
Yes, because often other people make big decisions for people with disabilities.
That's certainly true, Ellen. Well, thank you very much and good luck with your wedding.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Sharon.
No problem. So we are very close to the end of the session in terms of time, but I would like to give people the opportunity to ask any questions that they have. But before we open the floor for questions, I would like to say thank you to Abby for her presentation, to Tansy and Harshi for just being the most brilliant presenters, and also to Alice as well for co-producing that presentation with Harshi and Tansy. So I know that there was a question in the Q&A. So Catherine had asked whether there's any suggestions for road safety training. And Alice has responded saying it could be identified in the young person's EHCP with a goal for staff from school to develop a personalised study programme to help develop these skills. I wondered if either Abby or Alice wanted to add anything further. Abby, if you've got any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'd also say you could ring the helpline or email in, and we can recommend some personalised advice for your young person. We'd sort of recommend visual supports to tell the story of road safety. So whether you only use crossings where you press the button, or a zebra crossing, looking both, having it all explained ahead of time, and then practice and maybe positive reinforcement depending on how old the person is and what they're like. So if you get in touch with us, we can give you that personalized advice based on what this individual is like.
Thanks, Abby. And I would just add as well, Tansy's having road safety awareness as part of her travel training programme, which is part of her EHCP. So you've been learning, haven't you, about how to cross the road safely?
Yes.
And how did Lucinda teach you that? Do you remember?
Lucinda told me that really to be careful with the road, because we have to wait when the cars goes past. And then when it's stopped, when it's a red light and the cars stop, we need to wait for the green man to come.
That's right. And then you can cross.
Yes, and that's a safe to cross.
And did Lucinda show you pictures of that to help you understand?
Think so, yes.
She did, didn't she?
Yeah.
She showed you pictures so you knew what to look for. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? I can see there's some messages, Harshi and Tansy, in the chat saying thank you. Oh, here we go. Julie has said to Tansy and to Harshi. So I don't know who wants to go first. What piece of advice helped you the most when you were deciding about your future?
My future.
Yeah, so what has helped you think about your future? And Harshi, the same question to you. What helped you?
Yes.
What helped you think about your future? What would you suggest for other young people?
No, I think it was really difficult questions. And I'm thinking about it. It's very difficult.
Is that too difficult to answer?
No, my teachers. My teachers supported me.
Your teachers supported you. And Tansy,
Yes.
who helped you? Who helped you think about your future?
I think my parents.
Yeah, and who else?
And my brother.
Your brother. And is there anybody on the call here who helped you?
And Alice as well.
Alice helped you, didn't she?
Yeah.
But I think what
Yeah.
helped you was talking about it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And saying what you wanted to do.
Alice and Jackie. They both helped me.
Yeah, that's right. Jackie helped you. And I think, just as Abby was saying,
Yes.
having that dedicated person listening to you. So I'm glad that you think Jackie and I helped. I think it's so exciting, this agenda, because it's so exciting to see all the things that you're doing now, like Tansy working in H&M, Harshi aiming to work in a nursery. I just think it's can be difficult at times in family life to remember just how exciting the next steps will be. And this evening has been an absolute pleasure to work with you both to bring this presentation. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Alice. Anytime.
Alice, I enjoyed working with you and Tansy on this presentation.
Well done, girls. So there's some messages in the chat for you. Leslie has said, thank you all. Tansy and Harshi, you are great presenters.
Huh? Thank you very much.
And also,
Oh,
Julie,
you're very welcome, everyone.
and Julie said, you have helped me as a mum. I worry about my 14-year-old son, and you are both amazing. Which you are.
Who?
You.
Who's it from?
Julie said that you've helped her think about how to help her son.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Julie.
Okay, well, I think that might be all of the questions and answers for the session. Again, on behalf of the Down Syndrome Association, I would like to thank Tansy and Harshi for being amazing presenters, and also for sharing with us about their hopes and aspirations for the future and the amazing things they're both doing. Thank you as well to Alice and Abby too, for all of your help and the presentations that you helped put together. And thank you as well to everyone who's attended this evening and has joined in the chat, sending messages to us and to the girls. We're really grateful to you, and also for joining in on the activity about what type of sheep you are as well. So we're hoping you're all feeling energized like sheep number 9, and now thinking about your young people's futures. But thank you all very much and good evening.
And thank you for coming. I love you.
Say thank you.
Okay, thanks.